After World War II, the world craved peace, but what it got was a new kind of war. This wasn't a war of armies clashing on battlefields, but a silent struggle of fear, ideology, and influence. The United States and the Soviet Union, former allies, now stood as bitter rivals. It was a contest between democracy and communism, freedom and control. Europe was torn in two. West Germany, backed by the West, began to rebuild, but East Germany fell under Soviet rule, its people trapped behind what Churchill called the Iron Curtain. This wasn't a Cold War for long. Spies lurked in the shadows, propaganda twisted the truth, and proxy wars ignited across the globe. From Berlin to Korea, the tension was unbearable. The nuclear arms race and the space race escalated the stakes, with every decision carrying the weight of potential annihilation. The Cold War had begun, a silent war that would define generations and shape the very world we live in today. Picture this. October 1962. The entire world is holding its breath. Why? Because two giants, the United States and the Soviet Union, are locked in a terrifying stare-down, teetering on the brink of nuclear war. It all started when American spy planes spotted something shocking: Soviet nuclear missiles being set up in Cuba, just a stone's throw from Florida. President Kennedy was faced with a nightmare scenario. A direct attack could mean global annihilation, but doing nothing would leave a major threat right at America's doorstep. For 13 days, the planet watched in fear. U.S. Navy ships formed a blockade around Cuba, a quarantine line that couldn't be crossed. Secret high-stakes negotiations happened behind the scenes, while everyone publicly braced for the worst. One wrong move, one misunderstanding, could have wiped out millions in minutes. In the end, diplomacy won. The Soviets agreed to remove the missiles from Cuba. In a secret deal, the US later removed its own missiles from Turkey. The world stepped back from the edge. It was a chilling reminder of how close we came to the end, and a testament to the leaders who chose peace over war. Thanks for watching. Picture this: 1950, a nation divided, a world on edge. The Korean War explodes as North Korean forces, backed by the Soviet Union and China, storm across the 38th parallel. The South, supported by the United States and the United Nations, fights for its very existence. This wasn't just a local conflict. It was the first major battle of the Cold War, a fiery clash between communism and democracy played out on the Korean peninsula. From the brutal, freezing winters to the scorching summers, soldiers and civilians alike endured unimaginable hardship. Cities were turned to rubble, families were ripped apart, and millions were caught in the crossfire. The front lines surged back and forth as massive armies, including Chinese forces, clashed in relentless combat. By 1953, the fighting stopped with an armistice, but no peace treaty was ever signed. The war left Korea permanently divided, a nation scarred but resilient. It's a story of survival and a stark reminder of how global tensions can erupt into devastating local wars, leaving a legacy that still shapes our world today. Thanks for watching. In the heart of Southeast Asia, a long and brutal conflict unfolded, a war fought not just with bullets and bombs, but with ideology, fear, and endurance. This was the Vietnam War. After World War II, Vietnam was divided. The North, backed by communist powers. The South, supported by the United States. What started as a regional struggle quickly became a major Cold War battlefield. Jungles replaced frontlines, guerrilla fighters vanished into forests and villages, striking without warning, while American firepower rained from the skies. But the war wasn't just fought in Vietnam. Back home, protests erupted as television brought the conflict's horrors into living rooms worldwide. After years of mounting casualties and collapsing morale, U.S. forces withdrew in 1973. 2 years later, Saigon fell. The war left deep scars, questioning power, purpose, and the true cost of conflict. It proved that modern wars aren't always won on the battlefield. For decades, Berlin was a city split in two, east and west, a world of difference separated by a wall. In the east, under strict state control, life was a constant whisper, dreams were kept quiet, and freedom was a distant thought. The Berlin Wall, built in 1961, wasn't just concrete and barbed wire. It was a physical symbol of oppression, cutting through streets, homes, and hearts. But you can't build a wall high enough to contain the human spirit. The calls for freedom grew from whispers to shouts. People climbed, they hammered, they cried, and they embraced. A wall that had divided a world was finally coming down. It was more than just the end of the Cold War. It was the beautiful, chaotic, unforgettable moment freedom was reborn. Thanks for watching. Picture this: the late 1980s, the Soviet Union, a global superpower, is secretly rotting from the inside. The economy is stuck, corruption is rampant, and people are getting restless. Then comes Mikhail Gorbachev with his big ideas, glasnost for openness, and perestroika for restructuring. He thought he could fix the system, but instead he accidentally opened Pandora's box. Suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of freedom. From the Baltics to Central Asia, republics started demanding independence. The Berlin Wall came down, signaling the end of an era. The people wanted a real voice, real choices. Then, in 1991, the unthinkable happened. The Soviet Union simply dissolved. Gone. It broke into 15 new countries. The iconic red flag was lowered for the last time. It's a powerful reminder that no empire lasts forever, especially when its own people decide it's time for a change. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more history stories.